Okay, so just want to go over a few things though before I start going through your lesson. So what we talked about in class was this. Let me go. So what we found out is that if you're multiplying, and I'm just making these numbers up, if you're multiplying something like this, we know that we can multiply our coefficients. 3 times 5 is 15. And we multiply the exponents, and we multiply the variables. If the variables are the same, a shortcut here would be keep the base and add the exponents. Let me do this the long way, because literally this means this, right? 3a squared is a times 5 times a squared, a times a again. This is the long version of this, right? So, and now what we can do here is, like I said, multiply the coefficients, which gives you 15, and this is a times a times a times a, which is a to the fourth, right? So think about it. If I had 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, wouldn't that be 3 to the fourth, right? So the same idea. I keep the base, and I multiply the exponents. Okay, so and that's that. So that was the main idea today. Everything else was, what do you call, multiplying. So, sorry, combine like terms. So we're going to combine like terms, and I'm just going to underline. I will move things around. So you get 5c plus 2c plus, and again, and I'm moving the term with the sign preceding it. So that plus sign comes with 3d. 3d plus 8d. Put a line over here. So I'm going to go like this and go like this. So these are the two things I'm combining. 5c plus 2c, 7c. And then 3d plus 8d is 11d positive, so I'm going to write plus 11d. This one, again, let me underline this and m. So if I move them around, I get 5m plus m. Plus 6n minus 7n plus 8p. So again, let me underline. So I'm going from the subtraction sign all the way to here. The other one is from the plus sign all the way to the end of the n, and this. So those are the three things here. Minus 5m plus m. So we're combining, and this would be the same thing as negative 5 plus 1, right? Imagine that. Remove the variables for a second. Negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4. So I get negative 4m. Same thing here is plus 6n, so it's a positive 6, so I get 6n. Let me take the 6n out. 6 minus 7, right? So I know it's going to be something n. And 6 minus 7 is the same thing as 6 plus negative 7. And 6 plus negative 7 is negative 1. Or negative 1n, or just n is fine. And there's nothing to do with the AP, so that goes like that. Try to make this a little bigger because I need to see. All right, so here's likewise the same thing. So I get, let me move things around, 3x squared minus 8x squared minus 5x plus 3x plus 7 minus 9. So if you notice, when I move things around, I move the term with the sign that precedes it. So let me put a line. It's going to go all the way up to here. And then the second one is going from the subtraction sign all the way to the end of the x, and the plus sign all the way to the 9. So 3x minus 8x is the same thing as 3 plus negative 8. And 3 plus negative 8 is negative 5, x squared. Minus 5x plus 3x, think of it as negative 5 plus 3. Negative 5 plus 3 is going to be more negatives, right? So minus 2x. And plus 7 minus 9, or positive 7 minus 9, is going to be negative 2. And that's how I represent it. Negative a squared plus 5a squared, so that's going to be two items I'm going to combine. Let me move this guy over here. Actually, I'm going to leave this for last. Then I have negative ab3 minus 8ab3 minus a. So I'm going to combine these two things, and that thing. So I know it's going to be a squared, right? So, and there's a 1 here, so that's negative 1 plus 5. Negative 1 plus 5 is going to be 4. Here is negative 1ab3 minus 8ab3, so it's think about it. Think of it as -1 minus 8, or -1 plus -8. That's going to give us negative 9ab cubed minus a. Okay. 4a squared. So remember, the distributive property is, so there's nothing in front of the parentheses. So imagine if there's a 1 there. So can I sneak in the 1 here? There's a 1 here. So 4a just stands waiting, and it's a positive plus 1. So this positive times a positive is positive. So it's going to be 1 times 9a, which is just plus 9a. And positive 1 times positive 3 is just going to be positive 3. I combine these two guys. I get 13a plus 3. Over here, again, before you combine like terms, you have to remove the parentheses. There's nothing in front here, so imagine if there's a 1 and multiply, right? So if you anything multiplied by 1 is going to be just that number. So 1 times negative 6y is just this. 1 times minus 4 is just going to be minus 4 minus 6y. Let me move things around. I got this guy, and I'm going to move this minus 6y negative next to the other 6y minus 4. Let me combine these two. Negative 6 minus negative 6, think of it as negative 6 plus negative 6 if you want to change the subtraction to addition. And negative 6 and negative 6 is negative 12. Y minus 4. You need to remove the parentheses before you combine like terms. Okay, so you can't just combine this with this, for example, right away. So let's remove, so pretend there's a 1. So if you've noticed, there's a negative sign here in front of the parentheses, and it's literally going to change every term inside to its opposite. So it's a b, positive b3, so it's going to be negative b cubed. It's a plus 7a, it's going to be negative 7a, right, if you multiply that. So a negative times a positive is a negative, negative times a positive is a negative, so it comes out negative. Now this one is positive plus, right, so if you put a plus 1 over here, a little 1 here, that's a positive 1, everything inside will come out of the parentheses exactly as it is. So it's plus 9b3 and minus 8a. I combine like terms. Let me move things around. So I get this plus 9b cubed minus 7a minus 8a. These two will be combined. These two will be combined. In front of this variable b, I can imagine it as 1. So think of it as negative 1 plus 9, and negative 1 plus 9 is just 8. B to the third power. Minus 7a minus a, it's going to be something a, right? So think about, so the a stays, and just, subtract the coefficients. Negative 7 minus 8 is the same thing as negative 7 plus negative 8, right? Negative 7 plus negative 8. No zero pairs. You're just going to get a bunch more of negatives, so it's minus 15a. Okay. Moving along, again, same thing. So if it's a negative sign, everything comes out of the parentheses opposite. So it's going to be negative 6c. And this one's become plus 4m. Okay, so put a 1 in here and do the distributive property. Negative and a positive is a negative. Negative and a negative is going to be a positive. Again here, put a 1 in front. Negative 1 times 3k is going to be negative 3k. Negative 1 times 12m is going to be negative 12m. And you can notice that the 3k and the 12m came out as negatives because they were positive inside. So it comes out backwards, opposites. Is there any like terms? Yes, there is. So 6c, that stays, minus 3k, that stays as it is. And I'm going to combine this guy, plus 4m and minus 12m. So plus 4m minus 12m is the same thing as 4 plus negative 8, right? And that's going to be negative 8m. 9d stays, that minus sign, put a 1 over here, so everything inside this parentheses is going to come out its opposite, so it's positive 2c comes out as negative 2c. Negative 4d comes out as positive 4d, or plus 4d, and plus 4c. I combine this and this, negative 9d plus 4d minus 2c plus 4c, so put a line, so I don't know, highlight it, do something. You know, it's up to here, and then it's from here all the way up to here. Negative 9d plus 4d is negative 5d. Negative 2c plus 4c is positive 2c. Again, a minus b, there's nothing here, so pretend there's a 1. positive, of course, because there's no minus sign. So that's going to come out as A minus B. Here, there's a minus sign in front of this parenthesis, so the A plus B inside this parenthesis comes out as minus A minus B, comes out the other way, right? And again, this one, there's a minus sign, to put a 1 there. If you want to do the distributive property, you can. Negative 1 times A is negative A. Negative times a negative B, it's going to be plus B. So as you can tell, it comes out, it was positive, comes out negative. It was negative, comes out positive. So let's do a few things here. I know that this, so I'm going to have A minus A minus A, and then I'm going to have minus B plus B. So I can tell you that A minus A is 0, so I'm left with minus A. I can tell you that plus B and minus B will also cancel out, so my final answer is that. Just got to be careful. Well, this one, there's a parentheses inside of a bracket, so let's take care of things. So it's 10m plus, inside this bracket, you have 3m, leave it alone yet. And let's take care of this, right? So that you're going to work yourself from in to out. So the minus, put 1 there. Minus 1 times 5x is minus 5x. Minus 1 times minus 4 is plus 4. We still have a bracket, right? So 10m. Now imagine there's a 1 here again in front of this bracket. So it's a positive 1, so nothing's going to change. So everything's going to come out of these brackets positive. So it's come out the same way they are. So positive 1 times 3m is plus 3m minus 5x plus 4. We can combine like terms and combine these two. 10m plus 3m is 3m. And there's nothing else to do. Now this is bracket inside parentheses. Parentheses are brackets, and I forget what these are called. So let's work ourselves from in to out. So y, 4y squared minus these things, 4y, I'm not going to do anything with that, plus, not going to do anything with that, and the first thing I'm going to do is this guy right here. So I'm going to put a 1. Minus 1 times 6y is negative 6y, minus 1 plus, what is this, 2 times 2 is negative 2, and I can add that plus 6, close brackets, and then the other thing up here. So now 4y squared minus this bracket over here, and then 4y stays here, and I'm going to remove, so I'm going to pretend there's a 1 in front of these more, what do you call it, brackets over here. So that positive 1 is going to be applied to everybody inside, and I just mentioned that if it's positive, everything that's inside will come out the same way. So 1 times 3y squared is going to be plus 3y squared. 1 times minus 6 is just going to be minus 6y. 1 times 2 is going to be negative 2. And 1 times that positive 6 is going to come out 6. And then we still have that other third bracket there, right? So we had parentheses. We had this bracket, and we finally have that other thing, which I kind of find the name. And again, we got to remove all these brackets, all these parentheses before we can combine. So again, there's a minus sign in front of this. I'm going to pretend there's a 1. So it's going to be 4y squared, and that negative 1 is going to be multiplying everything inside, right? So everything is going to come out opposite. So you can tell it's plus 4y because this 4y is right now is positive. It's going to come out negative 4y. This is going to come out minus 3y squared. This is going to come out plus 6y. Then minus 2 is going to become plus 2, and the plus 6 is going to be minus 6, right? Because if I multiply negative 1 times this, then times that, and then times this, you'll notice that they will come out the opposite. So now I can combine like terms. Let me put them together. 4y squared, I'm going to move minus 3y squared, minus 4y, plus 6y, plus 2, minus 6. These two, 4 minus 3 is just 1, or just y squared. Negative 4y plus 6y, there's more positives, so it's going to be plus 2y. And plus 2 minus 6 is going to be minus 4. And that's my final answer. So this one, 5 times d is 5d, 5 times 3 is 15, minus 10. 5d minus 5, simple enough. This one, 5x times 2 is 10x. 5x times negative, think of it as negative 3x. It's going to be, so the 5 and 3 multiply. So let me put a negative sign there. 15. And x times x is x to the second power. Don't forget that there's a little 1 here. Minus, and that's an x. So if you want to make it 1x, be my guest. Makes it easier for you to see. So it's, think of it as the negative x multiplying this and multiplying that. Negative x times 3x is going to be negative 3x squared. And negative x times negative 1 is going to be plus x, right? Let me just make this, looks like a combine like terms. The 10x, let's move the plus x all the way to the second spot. The minus 15x go to the third spot, and the minus 3x squared goes to the fourth spot. These two I can combine, becomes 11x. These two is minus 15 minus 3. So minus 15 minus 3 becomes minus 15 plus negative 3. They're both negative, so it becomes negative 18, and then we just add our variable. Next one. There's a lot. So let me skip around. Oh, there's an easy one right here. How that gets sneak in. 3 times a is 3a, minus 3 times 5 is 15. That was super easy. Here. Is there any other easier ones? Why is this not moving? There's quite a few easy ones. So let me do this one. Y to the third power plus 4y to the fifth power. This is going to be minus y to the third power. Negative and a negative is going to get positive 3y squared. And then minus 9y to the fifth. Is there anything I can combine? I can combine, well, y to the third power and minus y to the third power just cancel each other out, making it 0. 4y to the fifth power I can combine with a minus, so it's going to get positive 4y to the fifth power minus 9y to the fifth power plus 3y squared. These two I can combine. Plus 4 minus 9 is going to be negative 5y to the fifth plus 3y squared. Okay, so it's a negative. Think of it as a negative and a positive again. So it's going to be 2c to the second power. Negative and a positive is negative 210cd. These two now. It's going to be a negative and a positive and a negative and a negative. Think of it that way. So negative, and it's going to be 2abc, right? Because all the variables are different, so there's nothing to do. And last one is going to be plus bcd. bcd. Can I combine anything? Thankfully, no, because they're all different. Yikes, look at this one. So, negative and a negative, so I know it's going to be positive, so I have to write it down. 2 times 4 is 8. The a, there's nothing to multiply. The b second to b third is going to be b5. c3 with a c5 is going to be c8. So that's this. Again, I'm going to multiply this times this. So there's 4 things I'm going to multiply, right? The 4 terms inside. So let's do the second one. So it's a negative times a negative is a positive. 2 times 5 is 10. The a's is going to be 8 to the fourth. The b is going to be b to the third. And the c, nothing, so I just write it down. Now it's this one times this, just the b, so it's going to be minus 2, right? So it's a negative times a positive. It's going to be negatives. 2 times, remember there's a 1 in front of you, 1 in front of the b. So 2 times 1 is 2. The a, nothing to multiply. The b's, b to the 2, and b is going to be b to the third. C to the third, no, nothing to worry about. And finally, the last one, and again, in front of the c, there's a 1, so you multiply negative 2 times 1 is give you negative 2. The a's, nothing to do. The b's, nothing to do. But the c, I have a c3 times c. It's going to be c4. And nothing to, what do you call it? Simplify. Combine, sorry. 12 minus 5 times 2a is going to be negative 10a. Negative 5 and negative 11 is going to be plus 55. I can combine the 12 and the 55, so let's move it around. minus 10a. 12 plus 55 is 67, minus 10a. These two, 4k plus times 2k is going to be 8, and then k to the second power. 4k times negative 8 is going to be negative 32k. Then the rest, nothing else to do. Net minus 2k plus 10k. Can I combine anything? Yes, this one and this one. So 8k squared minus 2k squared minus 32k plus 10k. Combine these two. 8 minus 2 is 6, so 6k squared minus, and then, sorry, I don't, yes, minus 32k plus 10k. Think of it as negative 32 plus 10. There's more negatives. How many more? 22 more, so it's going to be negative 22k. Almost done. How did this, I don't understand how this problem got here. 7 times 3 is 21. W5. 7 times, so it's going to be minus. 7 times 2 is 14. Jeez. 5 times, so this is going to be times this term, times this term. 5 times k, so there's, remember there's a 1 there, so 5 times 1 is 5, and then negative, by the way, mk. 5 times, so again, it's positive 5 times negative 3, so it's going to be negative, so 5 times 3 is 15. The m's, I got m times m5, so that's going to be m6, because I'm adding the exponents. And 5 positive times 7 positive, that's going to be nice and easy, it's going to be 35. And m times w is just m times w like that, minus 30mw. Can I combine anything? I can't combine this guy, because that's an mk. I can't combine this guy, but I can combine from here to here. 35 minus 30 is going to be just positive plus 5 mw. Last question. Yeah, I can eat dinner. No, ignore that one. That doesn't go. Uh-oh. Didn't I just erase that? Go away. Go away. Okay. Go away. Now you go away. All right. So in terms of x, express the area of the outer rectangle. So think about the outer rectangle. Okay. Rectangle's area is what? Length times width, right? So I know what the length is, which is 3x minus 6, and I know what the width is, which is 4x. So if I want to find the area of the outer rectangle, I would take 4x, right? I'm going to multiply this side times this side, and I get the area, right? So I'm going to get 4x times, now putting the length in parentheses. That's how you have to show it. And 4x times 3x is 12x to the second power. And then positive times a negative is going to give you a negative, and 4x times 6 is going to be 24x. So that's the area of the outer triangle. So outer rectangle. So basically, I'm going to have to keep this. So this rectangle, the big rectangle, the area of this rectangle is expressed in like that. So far that's what I have. So that whole rectangle, that's the area. But there's a smaller rectangle inside. And in the smaller rectangle, this is 2x, and this top is x plus 2. To find the area of this rectangle, I'm going to do the same thing. Area is going to be this side times this side, whether it's x plus 2 times 2x or 2x plus x plus 2, it doesn't matter. So it's 2x times that side, which is x plus 2. I can apply the distributive property. 2x times x is 2x squared. Plus, I know both of them are positive, so I'm going to be a plus. So 2x times 2 in the back here is going to be 4x. Right, so imagine now that the area of this rectangle is expressed by 2x. So this area inside is this. So imagine you had a piece of paper and you cut this rectangle out. You would have this remaining, right? So imagine you had a yellow piece of paper and you cut a rectangle. You've got a scissor and cut this area out. So you would sort of have like a rectangular donut, right? So that's what this is asking. So if you had a rectangle, a piece of paper, and you drew a rectangle in the middle of it, and you cut it out, you would have this area that I just shaded, right? So you agree with me that the area that's left over, this one would be the area of the original rectangle, which is this whole thing, and you subtract the part you just cut off. So it would be 12x squared minus 24x. Let's put that in parentheses, and you're going to subtract what? You're going to subtract the area you just cut out, and the area you cut out is represented by 2x squared plus 4x. So that's how you have to write this. Now, let's remove the parentheses. There's an invisible 1 here, multiplied by everything inside. It's not going to change anything, so it's going to come out like this. Now this one, things are going to change. If you put an invisible 1 here, remember, when there's a subtraction sign, everything inside is going to change. So the negative times a positive, you get a negative. And 1 times 2x is 2x squared. A negative times this positive here is going to be a negative, and 1 times 4x is 4x. So they come out the opposite, as you can tell. I can combine like terms, so I get 12x squared minus 2x squared. Let me move things around. Minus 24x minus 4x. Combine these two. 12 minus 2 is 10x squared. And here, be careful, it's minus 24x minus 4x. So let me write it here. Minus 24. I'm going to remove the variables. Minus 24 minus 4, minus 24 plus negative 4. And those obviously gives you negative 28x. And that's the area of the shaded rectangle that's left over after you cut out the rectangle inside. Not that difficult, but it's definitely something that you have to work on. Okay, and that's that.